I am pretty sure, for the most part, that no baby marmot crab were harmed in the making of this video. Like, 80% sure. No sucking liquid out of a tube for me and getting a mouthful of nasty fluid you don't want. I just dipped the tip of this gravel vac into the water twice and let gravity do its thing. And no, don't make a dirty joke with what I just said. I already did it. I had decided that I was sick and tired of the couple mulberry leaves I had put in there. Apparently, I put them in too soon. The babies were still too small and they really couldn't eat them, and then they grew stuff. So it was time for them to get on out of there. Now, I did find 3 dead babies in the process. They're easy to spot though. They turn red for some reason, like an orange red, as if they've been boiled and put back in the aquarium. Weirdest thing. And the rest of marmot crab won't eat them, which is very interesting because there is low cannibalism among marmot crabs or Procambus virginalis compared to other crayfish species whose babies would have been feasting on their dead baby brothers and sisters. I mean, let nature take its course and all. Normally that'd be something cool to watch, and as a fan of horror movies, especially the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films based off of Ed Gein, yeah, but these little ladies are so close to my heart. Even though I'm doing only the substrate today, I'm going to do the glass here in a couple more days, and I'm going to end up replacing this flower pot filter and the other round filter for 2 suction cuff to the back foam filters that will be a little more easier to maintain, because these ones right now are just becoming, grow zones for black hair algae at this point. Sometimes I wonder, do the crayfish even notice the water level changing? Like, does it feel less heavy over top of them and everything? And even when I add more water to it, do they think, wow, what's up with this water? It's like chef's kiss, because of course the water is cleaner. There's going to be less ammonia, nitrite, and nitrates in it. But I just wonder if they can physically tell from it. Funny thing happened while filling it up. I forgot to check the levels of the 5-gallon bucket as it was filling up with wastewater and feces, and I didn't spot it till it was about a ½ inch from overflowing. Freaked me out, and was definitely hard to try and carry gently by the handle to where I could just go and pour it out, which I poured off the balcony. It's whatever, there's just grass down below, so bombs away. I'm sure it likes the fertilizer. Actually, the point where I noticed that I was a ½ inch from the top of the bucket comes up right about now, and you see me just pull that tube out of the water really fast there. I just happened to glance down, oh no, I gotta get it out, and stop. And I've done that before, actually, on another aquarium where I didn't notice until suddenly I heard this sound and my feet were getting wet. Then I had to break out the carpet cleaner and everything. It was a few minute chore became an hour chore. It's whatever. But other people have had the exact same mistake as well. And right here is where I'm going around and still trying to remove duckweed. It's like every time I think that there is no more duckweed, I'll look in there in a day or two and see little tiny baby ones. I'm like, how the heck is this damn duckweed still propagating when I keep removing it and there's none left? They must leave some kind of spores or some weird crap floating around the water. Duckweed is the herpes of the aquarium world. It gets on everything and is annoying. Get frog bit or red root floaters or something like that, but don't get duckweed, please. And what you see me doing there is removing some black hair algae from around some of the pots and stuff like that. Just trying to cut down on its propagation as well, which is part of the reason why those are coming out, as I mentioned earlier. At some point this spring, I'm going to end up setting up a small aquaponic system to see if I can cut down on the water changes by running the water past the roots of vegetable plants or whatnot. That way it removes the nitrates and all from the water and returns it nutrient poor back into the aquarium. It'd be interesting to see if that works out. I already know that they say that water from a marmoset tank has a higher nutrient density than a regular fish aquarium or another tank with other types of crayfish in it. Like, for some reason, there's just that much higher of a nutrient load, which leads me to wonder, how beneficial could it also be out there in a natural habitat? Whereas it's highly irresponsible to release a marmot crab, it still leaves you to wonder. I mean, it's almost as if they're perfect for aquaponics. Why wouldn't they be beneficial to ecosystems as well, to give extra fertilizer to plants and strengthen growth? The nightmare scenario that most people have is that they will just keep breeding and keep breeding and keep breeding, and they will eat everything, every plant, every snail, until there's nothing but mud and marmot crabs everywhere. At least that's the nightmare scenario people put out there. But knowing that they won't breed when the water's too cold, they won't breed when the water's too warm, so that leaves, potentially just spring and fall for them to breed, that the babies will still face competition with natural predators and everything, that they normally eat more detritus and less likely to eat live plants. I mean, look at this grass I have growing in here, the jungle val. They don't eat it. They're not eating the Riccia fluitans. They just use it as a place to go up, hang out, and shed, and then float back down. Even the full-grown ones do the exact same thing in the 40-gallon breeder. So I'm believing that based on their breeding habits with temperature, that the same thing is going to apply for food density in the ecosystem. If there's an abundance of food, they'll breed a lot. If there's not, they won't. It's RK selection theory. You have a lot of food around, you have a lot more babies, they continue to have babies, etc., until the environment collapses. But a case selectee, if there's a shortage of food, they have less children, they spend more time rearing them and protecting them, and as a result, there's a balance in nature from it. You can also think about it as wolves and rabbits. Rabbits are selectees. They'll keep eating and eating and eating, and if there's no wolves around, eventually they'll starve because they've eaten everything and there's nothing left in the environment, and they just have to move on. Or an environment that has too many wolves, they end up eating away all the rabbits, and then the vegetation starts overgrowing and everything, because there's nothing there to keep balance. So RK selection theory is a very interesting thing to consider, especially since Jim Penman, who wrote Biohistory, is exploring how that also takes place in human cultures, where cultures that have an abundance of food end up falling apart, and cultures with low food, they end up preserving things more. For example, a culture that has an overabundance of food is less likely to believe that you need to own a gun to get it. Why? Because why have a gun if everything is here available for us? It's, you don't have to kill for it. But in a low food environment, protecting your farm is important. So you can see how certain strategies like that play out to human behavior in the long term. Also reminds me of the Mouse Utopia experiment, where they put a whole bunch of rats in an enclosed environment after making sure they were disease-free and genetically not poor. And they gave them all the food and all the water they want, and there were no predators, perfect temperature, no illnesses, and they did good. Their population grew for 3 generations, then it leveled off, and then it completely collapsed, where some wouldn't even come out till night when the rest were sleeping. The boys started hanging off in one area, the girls in another. They would hardly breed, and those that did become moms would abandon their babies early, and eventually the entire mouse colony collapsed all the way down to the last boy and girl, and they wouldn't breed to rebuild the colony. Makes you wonder when you look at places like Los Angeles and Portland and how Tokyo is starting to go that route too, where we put too many people, too much food in a place. Will it cause a similar collapse? And according to biohistory, it's very likely it will. It's a very interesting read. Now I'm just looking here at all these babies that came out to play after I re-topped up the water. They're just everywhere in here, and I still at this point am pretty sure I have around 100. At the very least 80, and at the most 110, 120 babies wandering around in here. Well, that's about all I've got for today, and I want to thank you all again for tuning in. I love talking about them, and hopefully, I can get some experiment suggestions from some of y'all in the future.